Welcome back to the show. And I'm thrilled you're here because today we're going to take on a potentially big topic. And here's what I mean. One of the top, definitely in the top three, if not the top two reasons that leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, experts, authors don't have a bigger audience, make a bigger impact, and make more money is because of this. The fear of rejection. We are going to take this on today, and I hope by the time we're finished this episode, you will have an entirely new perspective on this thing we call rejection. We're going to find out if, and help you discover if rejection, the fear of it, is holding you back, what it even is, the neuroscience of rejection, and I hope that you will join me in completely transforming this paradigm and getting to a place where in your world, in the way you operate, in the way that you experience and create things, rejection isn't even real anymore. Are you ready to join me on that? Okay, well, I'm excited. So I want to go back to my early days as a writer. And my strategy at that time, trying to get things published. So it would be, you'd reach out to magazines with a poem or short story or magazine article. You'd reach out to book publishers or agents first and foremost for a book proposal. And it was all about pitching and submitting, right? And what my strategy was at the time is I would work on something for a really long time. I would try to get it as good as it could be, whether it was an article, a fiction piece, whatever it was. I would research places that were a good match, whether it was agents or a publication directly. And then I would send the pitch or the query letter. That's what, different names for, depending if you're doing a book form or short form. And I would send these out, and I would send something out to one place that I'd identified as a great match, for this piece. And if the person said no, which they either didn't reply or said no, usually, then I determined that the piece wasn't good, that it sucked, and I would throw it away and start working on something new. And actually, I wouldn't start working on something new. I would take 3 months feeling shame, feeling embarrassed, feeling like a failure, hoping no one knew that I had this horribly humiliating experience of sending out a piece of writing as if I was the only person in the world who was pitching things and not getting them accepted immediately. And that was the cycle. I will even say the catabolic, right? Which is the destructive cycle of creativity and leadership. And that's what I was in. And I thought that that was just what people did. And it was certainly what I did. And I didn't want anyone to know. And I would never want to have the horror of someone knowing, I'd send this thing out and it didn't get accepted. Maybe I'd work my way up to sending it to a few places. And especially then, if I didn't get a yes, it was like I was garbage. It was garbage. Why bother? I'd go watch Netflix. And that was my cycle. So I enter into a master's program for creative writing at Northwestern University, and where I did my undergrad. So I'm in this master's program, and it's like a PhD master's thing where you're taking classes from both angles. And there's a fabulous professor there. And she's taught at top 20 universities. You've heard all their names. She's been reviewed in the New York Times positively for her books many times. She's been published in like every top literary journal. So in all respects, as a writer, you'd say this woman's made it, right? She's a, renowned professor. She's got multiple books there. She's been reviewed in the Times, and she's, won awards, and she's been in all the top literary journals. So as a writer, she's got it, right? A-list. And so I said to her one day, we were in class, and I said something like, I wonder if you could think back to when you used to get rejected, and how did you keep writing? I shut down. I don't, and she looked at me and she said, wait, what? She said, what do you mean when I used to get rejected? I still get rejected. She's like, I got rejected today at lunch. I got a rejection letter from, some magazine or whatever. And I stood there incredulous, like, wait, what? But you're so successful. And she said, well, Sarah, first of all, every writer gets rejected, even like really big name people. Like, you send it to some magazine, it doesn't mean it's a fit for that magazine right now, or, they just don't like your writing, and it's not, or she's like, and by the way, I've gotten really crappy reviews too, by the way. It's not just I've had glowing reviews in the New York Times. And she's like, I've had a mixture of types of reviews in that publication and many others. And I'm just looking at this woman who seems happy. She seems functional. She doesn't look like she's eating pints of ice cream, watching TV, and feeling sorry for herself. And so I'm thinking, okay, she's doing something differently. And she said, Sarah, here's what I did. Number of years ago, as an early writer, I decided that every time I got a no, or a rejection letter, as we call it in the writing world, I would send out 3 more pieces of writing. I would pick either to send that same piece to 3 other places, or I would send something new to the same place or something else. I would immediately, she used the rejection as fuel. Okay, so this is the beginning of changing a paradigm of rejection. Now, what I'm going to take you through in a few minutes is a whole nother level where I think we can evolve, we can retire rejection. That's what I'm actually inviting us to do. I'm inviting you, as this amazing member of this community and this audience, to retire rejection. It is a construct that is not serving us, and it keeps you small. And we're going to talk about why and how to tell if it's holding you back here in a moment. But I wanted you to hear this incredible story from my professor, because it just shook me out of all my bullshit, like all of my denial, all of my excuses. Oh, I'm not good. She's like, just send out 3 more. And I really saw someone having a different reaction to rejection, right? We're doing a whole series in visibility right now with, this is visibility resistance. One of the biggest causes of visibility resistance, where you're afraid to put yourself out there, reach out for things, pitch speaking engagements, pitch your writing, whatever it is that you're wanting to get your offer in front of more people, your service in front of more people, whatever, like the visibility resistance, fear of rejection, is one of the main causes of visibility resistance. And here was someone telling me, and also I kind of got it. Like, she's not letting this hold her back. She's not stopping writing. She triples down, not even double down. She sends out 3 more. And she says, oh, and I make sure I write that day. So she just like blasted and threw all my excuses, all my nonsense, all my stuff. And I didn't understand at the time the psychology and the neuroscience of rejection, which we're going to talk about now. But I did get that she was doing something differently, and her results. Guess where my results had gotten me at that point, when I was sending one thing to one place, and if they didn't want it, thinking I sucked, and stopped writing for several weeks or months in some cases, if it was a really big, like a book rejection. I was getting here, nothing, 0, nowhere. And this woman was, as I already told you, had multiple books, was in all the top literary journals, had won awards, had reviews in all the big top publications, multiple professorships, right? So I clearly saw my strategy was not effective, and hers was. And so I got really interested at that point in starting to, because I'm a neuroscience and a psychology and a spirituality geek. And so I wanted to understand what was really going on. You have 2 people, they're writers. She gets rejected. She uses it as fuel to be productive, to be focused, to get her work out there, to get more visible as a writer. And I shut down and watched TV and ate stuff and felt sorry for myself. Like, right, same external impetus, different responses. Okay, so we are working towards today evolving the idea of rejection right into retirement, where rejection isn't even real. This is a bridge that you can even use right now to let it fuel you. If you pitch yourself for a speaking in the conferences, oh, we already are booked, or we don't have anyone, or they never even write you back, you just say, oh, great, okay, 3 more. Where else can I go speak today? Right. And if you want to know how to figure out where to go speak and how to, really reach out effectively and all those things, just make sure to DM me or use the show notes to write the word visible, so I can make sure to get you the full visibility roadmap, and come to the Viral Visibility Masterclass at the end of the month, so I can train you live on this. Right. We can do this together, and fully. Day 2 of that 3-part masterclass is going to be like together once and for all. We're retiring rejection, the idea of rejection. Okay, so you have a little context for where I was, and my results were nothing. I had nothing published. I was not visible as a writer. I was not making an impact with my work the way that I wanted. Certainly wasn't making any money writing. And after just starting to even evolve the idea of rejection as fuel, absolutely got me more prolific, more visible. I started getting things published. I just, well, wow, like this is, I've been sitting on my, what, and this woman's out making it happen and getting after it. So that's already, you could stop listening right now and just say, from now on, anytime I have a perceived quote unquote rejection, I'm going to triple down, and I'm going to reach out to be visible in a similar way somewhere else, three other places. And again, this works for speaking, writing, pitching offers, having discovery call. You have a call with someone, you offer your services. They're not a fit yet, or they don't have the money, or whatever it is. You talk to 3 more people. You just say, I'm going to book 3 more calls. Like, what if you did that? Just imagine, let's close our eyes for a minute. Imagine over the next 90 days, you took this on and you tripled down every time you got a perceived no or you didn't hear back, that can feel the same as rejection in our body and in our psyche, and you actually tripled down. Imagine the number of sales calls, the number of outreaches, the number of speaking engagements you'll pitch, the number of places you put your writing. And there is an element of this whole thing about visibility that is about numbers. And this writer was writing every time she got a perceived rejection. I wasn't. And she was submitting her work 3 times every time she got a no or nothing, heard nothing back. So, of course, she was more prolific and more impactful and more abundant because she was actually getting her work out there and writing more work, right? So I took that on, and that was the first step in this evolution. Now we're going to go beyond that today because I know you're ready for it. If you're in this community, great. But use this as the bridge, okay? It will, if nothing else, put you into massive action, which is always an exciting place. It'll take you to a next level with that alone. We're going to go to a quantum level today. All right, let's look into now what is the whole neuroscience and psychology of rejection. So here's my take on it. After working on myself for decades and coaching incredible people who are super talented and also really sensitive, like I am, huge empaths, high on the sensitivity scale, don't like the feeling of no's or ghosting or rejection, right? And after coaching working on myself and coaching others for 20 years plus, here's what I've come to. Rejection is the way we experience what we perceive, and I'm using that very intentionally. The way we perceive the idea of rejection is based on a story. It's based on a neural pathway that we've created. So to bear with me here, let's imagine what we want to do now is, remember, we have the two, right? My professor and me, in the previous example, each experienced a similar external impetus that counts as rejection in our world. Like someone says, no, we don't want your piece of writing. So, but we had very different responses. So to go a step further, even beyond rejection as fuel, what we need to do is look at, what are you making rejection mean? The only reason we associate rejection as bad, negative, humiliating, whatever it is because we have made up a story. We've made an agreement with our subconscious mind, usually influenced by family culture, upbringing, trauma from childhood, you name it. And we've created a story, okay, about rejection, that it's bad, that it's humiliating. And then we make it mean something that's usually it's rooted in a wound from the past. Okay, this is the neuroscience and psychology of rejection as I have come to understand it. So what I want you to do is you can pause the show and grab something to write with. And I like doing this with, like, make it fun. So you get some colored pens if you're watching this versus listening, and holding up my markers. And what you're going to do is think of the last time you felt rejection. Okay, so just pause this and call something to mind. It can be in any, personally, professionally, we're here on the rise talking about thought leadership. So maybe something professionally, you offered something, someone said no, or you offered something and they ghosted you. You put your work out there for speaking or writing, and you either didn't hear back or someone said no. Okay. So think of a real example to work with, because that will conjure up a more visceral experience of this evolution process we're doing today. Okay. Got something? All right. It'd be great if you're like, God, I can't think of anything. But, if we're putting ourselves out there, you hopefully could think of something, because that means you're taking action. Okay, so you're going to think of that thing, and now you're going to ask yourself, like, what is the, like, main feeling or message associated with this? And this is what gets really fascinating, because if we were in a live room together, we would not all have the same answer. So, for example, when I would send out those pieces of writing and someone would either not respond or say, no, we don't want your work, the message that came up for me is, you're not a good writer. You will never be a good writer. You aren't valued. You aren't talented. You aren't good enough. Okay. That's the kind of message that came through for me. Now, I've done this work one-on-one with clients for 20 years, and they don't all have the either not good enough, you're not valuable, you'll never make. That's not everyone's message. I was working with someone recently whose message was, you're not wanted. She had put an offer, like a program out, and when people didn't buy it, the message was, you're not wanted. Like the market clients, whatever it is, you're not wanted. Other people say, you're not valuable. So I want you to identify this is called your rejection story, okay? Your rejection narrative. So it might take a minute, like pause it and think and really do the journaling on this so that you can mine, because this is the key to your transformation. This is the key to retiring the idea of rejection and living a life where rejection isn't even real and it never holds you back again. Okay? So next, you're going to see if that message reminds you of anything from your past. Okay. Does it remind you of anything from your past? So if I was doing, and I have done this work, of course, in preparation for today, again, just to check in with it. But let's say I have the experience of, again, like I send out my writing and the writing, gets a no. Okay. And then I make that mean, you're not good enough. Basically, you're not good. Right? In this case, about writing. But that's like, so I have my topic is writing, and then you're not good enough, you're not good. And then my inner critic loves to glom, we call it the gremlin here, like glom onto that and say, and you'll never make it, just to like really, really stoke that fire of humiliation and fear, right? Now, then what I'm going to do, I believe that the reason we fear rejection and recoil from it and avoid taking action where we might even possibly experience rejection goes back to what I'm going to call a core wound. Okay. So what we want to do is take this and find out what's the core wound. Does this story, this rejection story that you've created, does it remind you of anything? Typically, when I'm working with someone, and certainly when I'm working on myself, I can see that it reminds me directly of growing up in my family. And, you know, regardless if they, meant they didn't mean anything, whatever, but I took on, you're not good enough. You're not loved. Honestly, it goes all the way back to like, you're not loved. And and so you're not special, you're not loved. Like other writers got chosen, you didn't get chosen, you're not loved, you're not special. So the core wound usually feels really, really, really bad. And so we very understandably, this is the neuroscience and the psychology of rejection. We don't want to put ourselves in situations. So when you think, what's wrong with me that I'm not sitting down and finishing this book? What's wrong with me that I'm not putting myself out there for speaking? What's wrong with me that I won't go live on social media? Well, probably because if you think going live on social media and if no one shows up or comments or shares or engages, that your work isn't wanted and therefore you are unlovable or unwanted or unworthy, that is not going to be a risk your subconscious mind is going to want you to take. So it will either set up fires or get you distracted in busy work or just terrorize you with futurizing scenarios of, criticism, failure, judgment, whatever it is, and you won't take the action. And then you'll beat yourself up and feel like an even bigger. So this is where it's this vicious cycle, right? And you're going to beat up self. Okay. You're going to beat yourself up here because, oh, look, another day went by and you didn't write or you didn't pitch or you didn't make an offer or you didn't sell or you didn't whatever. So it's this vicious cycle that keeps us in this loop. Now, how do you know if this is going on for you? I promise today we discover how do you know if rejection, the fear of, it's not actually the rejection, as we saw. One person uses it as fuel to become really successful. Another person watches Netflix, eats ice cream, and shuts down. Same experience, different responses, right? So the question is, how do you know if this is holding you back? You might already know just by doing this little inquiry. You know if the fear of rejection could be holding you back by these symptoms, okay? So I want you to just do this little quiz with me. In the last 3 months, we'll just say since the start of the year, okay? Since the beginning of the year, have you avoided taking actions that you know would make you more visible? So this includes posting on social media, going live on social media, pitching yourself to be on podcasts or to guest speak, hosting your own events, having sending out your if you write, sending out your work in whatever form, if that's books, articles, stories, poems, essays. Have you avoided networking because you what if people doesn't go anywhere and they don't make good referrals? Have you avoided scheduling more and doing actions that will increase more calls to talk to people about working with you? Have you avoided talking about money on those calls? Have you avoided making more offers to an email list or on social media or any of these things? If you have found yourself like, it's like, you know, it would probably be good for me to get in front of more people, and get out there more, and you've avoided doing any of those actions in the last 6 months, you likely could have a fear of rejection. And it could be holding you back from making a bigger impact, making more money, and feeling more fulfilled and fulfilling your purpose. And it's kind of, like a lot of things that can affect, right? This fear of rejection. So I want you to ask yourself now and just put on our little, it's like if we had a little worksheet, right? Ask yourself, do you think intuitively, gut feeling, that the fear of rejection has been impacting your visibility actions, visibility producing actions, VPAs? That's what we're working on in this series, taking VPAs. Have you avoided VPAs potentially because of the fear of rejection? Just loving an answer to yourself, yes or no. I think my answer is still, to a certain extent, yes, even though a lot of the time I have evolved out of this construct. I still get to look at it. If I'm avoiding pitching something, reaching out, networking, connecting, why is it potentially this? Because rejection, it kind of gloms into fear of failure, fear of, humiliation, okay, other visibility resistance elements. So could the fear of rejection be holding you back? And you'll know yes or no at this point. All right, now let's have some good news. Okay. Right. We know sort of what this vicious cycle is now, where you take an action. If you get a perceived no or a silence, you have a story that feels terrible. It feels terrible because it triggers a core wound from some time in your past, usually something that drills down to ultimately, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not enough, I'm a failure, whatever the story is. And now I want to look at, before we evolve, before we retire rejection, let's decide if you want to, because here's a really important thing. We're going to examine first, before we retire rejection, how it's serving you. And the way I like to ask this question to myself and to our clients in Thought Leader Academy is, what is the payoff? What's the payoff for you? It is giving you the fear of rejection, and even your rejection story in particular is actually giving you a payoff. Now, you might not like the payoff because you don't like the fact that it creates procrastination, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, anxiety, feeling terrible, beating yourself up, whatever, the vicious cycle. You might not like any of that. But first, before we decide if we're retiring it together as a group, how is it serving you? So I want you to pause and journal on that for a few minutes. How is your rejection story giving you a payoff? Okay. Congratulations, by the way, on sticking with this and when you do the deep work from the inside out, this is going to change. It could change everything from here on for you. Like, today could be one of those days when everything changes for you and you become that person that is prolifically creating, contributing, leading, positively impacting, and manifesting massive abundance and success for yourself and others, right? This could be one of those days. And I have an intention that it is that day for you. All right. So, but what's the payoff? So here's some payoffs. If you weren't sure and you're not sure what would be the payoff, here's some payoffs that I've come up with in years of doing this questioning to myself, and our Thought Leader Academy clients have shared with me. One payoff can be, the big one is typically, if it's true, right, that I'm no good, I'm not good enough, no one wants what I have, I'm a failure, I don't have to keep taking action. I'm off the hook. Often one of the biggest payoffs of your rejection story is that you get to have it reinforced. Oh, yep, see, we're reinforcing the familiar. My family always told me I was no good, or my teacher, or my really mean ex-boyfriend, or whatever it is. And now it's been proven true. We get to prove the old story. And even though it's a crappy story and it's a movie we don't really want to watch again, we've just got that playing on repeat. So we reinforce the familiar. It can be a payoff, and we're off the hook. That can be the big payoff. We don't have to do anything. If I suck, and I'll never, that's why my inner critic loves to say, and you'll never succeed, because then I really can go just watch Netflix and, not do anything and feel sad for myself. I'm not good enough. No, it's just like, I'm not willing to walk through the temporary refining fire of this rejection story. And so what's the payoff for you? Make sure you know that. And now what I want you to do is journal on the cost. So again, pause and take a few minutes. What is it costing you to reinforce this story and to let it either stop you all the way, like it used to stop me completely, or slow you down? What's it costing you? Okay. You're doing great. You're doing a great job. So if you've paused this and done this journaling now, or you've let this, your mind, if you're driving or something, you've let your mind go, what is it costing you? So what does it cost us? What does it cost us to allow rejection to feel so big and have such high stakes and mean something so awful about ourselves that reinforces some crappy programming from our childhood? What is it costing us? And what I really hope you do, either during this episode by pausing or afterwards, find somebody else who wants to do this work with you and dialogue on this, because you'll heal also by sharing it. Those of you in Thought Leader Academy, you come to the sessions, and we'll heal this in real time. For all of you, come to the Viral Visibility Masterclass and we can heal this on day 2. What it's costing most of us is fulfilling the ultimate purpose that we came on this planet to do. For real. It's costing us impacting and changing, maybe even saving lives with our message. It's costing us making the ultimate impact, bringing forth the full big magic that we and only we have been entrusted with to bring forth in the form of writing or speaking or videos or emails or social media posts or whatever, craft we're doing in the world, that those things attract people for us to be able to do the transformational work one-on-one or in groups or retreats or however you're doing that. It's costing you your legacy. It's costing you changing the world. And so the question is, when you hold those two, and so hold it, like I'm going to demonstrate if you're watching the video version of this, holding out your hands, and do the costs outweigh the payoffs? Only you can decide that. When I look at it, in my case, does sacrificing my ultimate contribution to the world that I came here to do, my purpose, my legacy, my leadership, the using the gifts that I've been entrusted with to help others, is that worth me sacrificing to reinforce a story from my childhood that I'm not good enough and unlovable and not valuable and not worth it? And so I can go watch TV. That's what it ultimately came down to when I did this inquiry. And no, my answer was no. And you know your answer, and don't rush it or think you should have a certain answer. If your answer is whatever your costs and payoffs are, it's like, actually, the payoffs outweigh the costs, then that's great. You have clarity. You can stop listening to this, and there's cool shows on Netflix now, right? But it's just not, but for anyone who was in the position that I was in, and like the client I took through this work this week is in right now, it's not worth it. The cost is too high. So if the cost is too high for you, keep listening, because now we're going to do the quantum work. Now we're going to shift this, and I'm going to ask you if you'd be willing to retire the whole paradigm of rejection on behalf of yourself so you can fulfill your purpose, but also remember that everything you do creates ripple effects. And if people see you do it, they can do it. And if you're one more person who says it isn't even a concept, I'm going to show you how to retire it. We won't leave this episode until I've showed you how to retire it. But that gives other people permission to retire it too. So really, when we get down to it, when we let the fear of rejection stop us, that is a self-focused paradigm. And when we say it's more important to me to serve the world in the special way that I've been given to serve the world, then it's not about us anyway. And that's going to help you retire rejection, because it was never about us to begin with. Okay, so if you're still with me, here's what we're going to do. To complete this process today, we get to create use a different fun marker, okay? The new narrative. Okay. I am inviting you to retire your rejection story altogether, your rejection narrative, to take it off the table, and I'll show you how, and create a new narrative that is a success narrative and only a success narrative. So when we live in the place of there's success and failure, there's acceptance and rejection, all of that very polarizing dual thing, we're always going to be riding highs and lows. We're going to be ecstatic when we get a yes. We're going to be down if we get a no. I'm inviting you to let all that go today. How can we do that? Well, here's how I like to do it. How we do it is by changing what the entire process of taking action, visibility, putting ourselves out there, visibility producing actions, VPAs, even mean, what they're about. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. We're going to create a new neural pathway that's going to happen at the level of brain science, at the level of quantum energy. Therefore, it will go into your body and into your subconscious mind. All right, so what else could it mean? Is how we're going to start to shift your brain. What else could it mean? If it used to mean I'd send out something and someone said no or didn't respond to me, it meant I was a sucky writer and that's because I'm unlovable and unworthy and, piece of garbage, whatever. If that's what it used to mean, whew, let all that go. It was all a lie. It was all just a made up thing anyway. And now we have only a success narrative. Well, how can we have only success narrative? Because people still might not buy something we put out or select us for, the piece of writing. Well, we do that by changing what the whole game is. We're going to change the game. So say it with me, change the game. We're going to change the game of what visibility producing actions and reactions even mean. So imagine that the whole game that you're going to play from this day forward is to take the visibility producing actions. You've already won when you take the visibility producing action. So when you send out a piece of writing, you pitch a speaking engagement, you offer something to a client, you've won. And they've won because they have an opportunity to have transformations, whether they're available for that opportunity as a magazine editor or a book agent or a television producer or a podcast host or a client who's considering hiring you, a patient considering to come into your practice. You've won and they've won because they have a new opportunity for something great and you have fulfilled your purpose here, which is to share your gifts and talents and make the greatest contribution possible and set yourself up for the greatest receiving of abundance and fulfillment possible. You've already won. What if that was the whole thing, right? And then anything else that happens, if someone does publish the work, invite you to speak, be on the podcast, says yes, invest with you to coach or consult or come into your medical practice, your law practice, when that happens, that is a wonderful, wonderful additional gift. But you've already won when you have taken the visibility producing actions. Now, I can imagine if we were in a room, some of you might start crossing your arms at this point, forget it. Stick with me because it's not just going to happen by saying, oh, I changed the game. We have to really change the game at the level of our neurology and our subconscious mind and our physical being. All right. But I'm going to not leaving you until I've given you the roadmap for this. All right. This is the breakthrough moment. So you get to decide with your own agency. I now declare and decree that I only win. I now declare and decree that I am a success. I declare and decree what I do is valuable. I declare and decree that I've been called to this mission on planet Earth at this time. I declare and decree that my work is needed in the world. I declare and decree that I am a magnet for the people that need this work, whether they need to watch it, read it, listen to it, hear it, or actually do transformational experiential work with me. I declare and decree that success is the only thing real in my life, that winning is the only thing real in my life, and that when I succeed, others succeed and the world succeeds. When I win, others win, the world wins. That's the only game I'm playing. It's the only thing that's real from this day forward. So I want you to start declaring and decreeing. That is going to change neurologically what is happening in your mind. It will change physically what is happening through your nervous system and throughout your body, in your cells themselves. You are now only a winner. You are only a success. You are only the person you came here to be. And you win every time that you act in alignment with that truth, with that new narrative. Okay. You win when you send something out, you post something, it doesn't matter. So this is where we get into, this is how, again, we start to feel differently about it. We are going to focus on action versus outcome. The outcomes are fun. That's already its own reward. But we are going to start doing what all the social media companies and things have done. We're going to create dopamine hits. We're going to create a reward cycle for action versus outcome. The outcome's already fun. When we get published, it feels good. When we go on a show, we're excited. When we get the chance to work with someone and they invest and they get transformed through the work that we're here to do, it feels freaking amazing. That's already got a reward. What we were going to do to really make this shift, to really be in a new paradigm, to really do things differently and get into a place where you are raising your VQ, your visibility quotient every day, where you are in visibility producing actions, VPAs every single day. The way we do that is we are going to reward and create dopamine hits and positive reinforcement for the action themselves. You've already won. Now, that's not going to feel real to you if you're going to run the tapes of the old story. So that's why I've given you a new story. You're now going to just hundreds of times a day, if needed, for a while. I declare and decree I'm only a success. I declare and decree that I win when I take action. I declare and decree that everything is working out for me, that my work is valuable, regardless of what any external person, force, organization, human says. That is the truth, period. That's all I pay attention to. And your reticular activating system is going to now start to bring you, as you declare and decree, it's going to bring you evidence that this is true. Previously, your reticular activating system brought you evidence of rejection, failure, not good at whatever your story was. We've let that go. The reticular activating system in your brain only goes and fetches what you throw. If you throw the bone of unworthy, it will bring you lots of experiences and memories of the past and people in your life to reinforce that. If you throw the bone of I win, others win, the world wins, that's all it's going to bring you. So that's the first piece of it. You're going to run that new declaration as many times as you need to, start creating a new neural pathway, a new reaction in the nervous system. You are going to start to reward action, not outcome. What does that mean? It means you treat yourself when you send out 3 pitches, when you put your writing out, when you do a writing session, when you offer something to someone, you reward yourself. These can be anything that you find rewarding. Doesn't have to be money. At the beginning, I had no money to invest in this. So I would make a treats list. I made a treat myself list that was all free things, right? It was a walk outside. It was a hot bath. I mean, I could say I paid, for living, but I have access to water. So a long shower, a listening to a YouTube guided meditation, just laying down for 30 minutes before dinner, calling a friend, taking a walk with a friend, doing a workout, whatever. You decide what's a treat for you. So you're going to make a treats list. And every time you take a VPA, a visibility producing action, you're going to reward yourself. Super cool, right? You're going to reward yourself for the visibility producing action. And then you're going to start to create these dopamine hits, and you want to supersize it, because I always like to give you a supersize here on the Rise. Find someone else who is ready to create a new neural pathway around this with you, where it's a success only, win only paradigm. And you celebrate with each other every time you take action. You celebrate the way you would have, instead of just, I got a new client today, I signed a new client, I got a piece accepted, my, book got a yes. Instead of just celebrate, you're going to still celebrate that. You know what out of those. But you're going to celebrate when you took a visibility producing action. I went live today. Yes. Okay. Get someone who's going to be like a little nutty with you, right? And if you don't have someone in your life like that, that's why you especially make sure you put the word visible and go in the notes and make sure you're at the Viral Visibility Masterclass. Okay. So that you can be in community where people are going to celebrate the bejesus out of you every time you take a visibility producing action. This is how the only reason we are so addicted to the external outcome is because we've created really, really strong neural pathways internally, and it's reinforced externally for those external achievements. We can do the same thing. It was just programming. So we're not going to program ourselves consciously to reward and value and celebrate and make ourselves feel awesome and treat ourselves and give ourselves dopamine hits every time we take VPAs. Because the more VPAs, visibility producing actions, that you take, the more success you're going to have, the more money you're going to have, the more impact you're going to make, the more lives you're going to change, the more fully you will realize your purpose and your legacy. That's just how it works. So we're going to mind hack ourselves, okay, into a new experience. And it's going to take some time. That's why don't do this alone. Make sure you're in community, whether it's ours or someone's, where you're going to have this reinforced. Think how many years you've had reinforcing only the external and this very dual, I'm good if I win, I'm bad if I fail stuff. Okay. So I want to know, I want to hear from you. After listening to this or watching this, are you willing to retire the paradigm of rejection for yourself and for everyone who is going to be in your orbit? And then number two, what is the action you're willing to take from today's episode in order to create a new neural pathway that's going to bring you into the fulfillment of your VV, your visibility vision? Okay. I hope your third action is to make sure you're registered for the Viral Visibility Masterclass so that we can do this work together. Day 2 is specifically, we're not only going to do fear of rejection, we're going to look at all the visibility blockers, all the things that create VR, visibility resistance, and we're going to do a powerful experiential clearing of them and get those out of there once and for all. Okay. But you've got a process now based on exactly what we did today to how to identify if you are in an old narrative about what rejection means and how to trace it back to that core wound and how you're beating yourself up and reinforcing your crappy cycle. You know how to find out what's the payoff of that for you. What are you getting out of it? What's it costing you? And then you now have a pathway and a playbook to completely step out of this paradigm of rejection that we've created collectively and step into a place where it's win-win only. You are only a winner. You are successful. You are valuable. You are needed. Your work is needed. None of that's on the table anymore. And at this place, when we truly walk in this, and it's going to take some reps of running that new narrative, of declaring and decreeing the truth, then acting in alignment with the truth, and then reinforcing case building for the truth and reinforcing with all the fun things that we do for reinforcing other things in life, right? Get that dopamine hit through reward, celebration, recognition, and treating yourself in, again, whatever ways are healthy and responsible for where you are in your life. And this reaches a incredible place, maybe even a utopian sounding place where rejection isn't even real because it never was to begin with. That's the big surprise in all this. It was just a story. It was just a story we made up, and you don't have to ever watch that movie again. You're walking in a new vibration, in a new consciousness, and it will uplift this planet, and you will make the ultimate contribution you came here to make when you do this. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you. Message me the word visible so I know that you are taking this work on, that you're doing it with us, and I'm so excited to see you at the masterclass so that we can continue to do this work individually and collectively together and make sure that you get to your visibility vision and your place where you are ultimately going to leave this life knowing that you came and did what you came here to do. You got this. I'll see you next time.